Okay, so something else. Somebody asked me about the the netting covers that I make for the tubs. Um, and you can see it is, in fact, a bit of hose pipe, old hose pipe. Uh, More or less forms a normal circle. If we want a circular one, join it together. The thing is, you make it make the diameter larger than the tub, so that the net is it's not very tight, but it's kept, the netting is kept, at a reasonable tension, so that dragonflies can't get close enough to the water to lay their eggs. I mean, that's the only reason the netting is there, to prevent dragonflies. And so you need to just make this the diameter of the netting support, this hose pipe that goes around, larger than the diameter of the tub, and it just sits down below and gets a reasonable amount of tension on the netting to keep the netting above the water. Okay, so once you've got the the diameter, you can measure the length you want, and I've just got a sample piece of this hose pipe here. Very old, it's quite rigid, but it still bends okay. I wouldn't want to use it as a hose pipe, so it's a good recycling to use it for these to hold these nets over the tubs. So measure the length, cut it off, get it like that. Now you can join it. I've got something like this, which is a bit of old bamboo. Put it in there. And that's it, done. Then you just got to fit the netting on. If you don't have anything, a bit of pipe or a bit of bamboo which would suit that, then I just drill a couple of holes in the end like that. Use a zip tie. I really like zip ties. Put it through. I can see how to do it. Yeah. Put it through. Put it up through that one. And there we are. Slip it off. Not as nice looking, maybe, although maybe you can line it up like that. Not as nice looking as if you use some piece of tube or whatever it fits inside. You can always hide that at the back of the tub, and it's ready to go. You could probably use other things, but hose pipe is probably the probably the easiest way of providing enough weight to the netting to provide enough tension over the top of the tub. Okay, now the netting. It's about 1/2 inch, 12 mm mesh. It's plastic. It's sold as garden bird netting. Again, you can see on your online stores, whatever, you can just look for garden bird netting, and it's about 1/2 inch mesh. And you can get sort of big sheets of that which can go on there, or in fact, because I've just put more netting on my pond, this is pond netting. This is very rigid, and that's the one that I've been using up to now. I've now got some pond netting which is more woven, is softer, more flexible maybe. Maybe I would try using that. That's slightly smaller. That's about, the mesh is about 3/8, which is about 10 mm or something like that. But either one is fine. I would say, I wouldn't go larger than a 1/2 inch mesh. just to keep the dragonflies out, and you want to do it so that the mesh is at least 2 inches, 50 mm or so above the water, and then they won't bother trying to lay eggs there. Well, according to my observations, they won't. So that's the way it works. And if let me have a look at. Oh, the other thing is, I also adult MEDAKA will love eating mosquitoes, so I don't mind mosquitoes having as many eggs as they like in the MEDAKA tubs. Fine, yeah, the MEDAKA will love that, eat them straight away. But if you've got small juveniles, they can't eat particularly adult mosquito larvae in the tanks. So any buckets or containers I've got with juvenile MEDAKA in, I cover with this netting to keep the mosquitoes out. This online is normally called garden insect netting, like very, very small mesh. It's very flexible, some sort of plastic of some sort, I don't know, nylon, and it lasts a long time. Lasts a long time. So I use that sometimes, so you can have or whatever type of netting you've got, that one or that one, or you can put on mosquito netting. What I call, well, it's not sold as mosquito netting, it's sold as insect netting, and that functions just as well. And then the one I've got here, which was through I think used on a 5-gallon bucket, you can see the you just lay the netting down, put the circular hose on the top, and just go around putting zip ties just to hold it on. Now this netting is even smaller mesh. Again, some I had left over. It's halfway between mosquito and bird netting, so this one will be fine if it's what you've got. This is a green one, so this is a very old one. I think I've run out of the green netting now. I use the black one. The green is fine. So that is held on with the black zip ties. And what I did, I put on mosquito netting as well, because now I use it on a bucket. So I'm storing water. Then I just put that on a 5-gallon bucket, and the mosquito netting on top. So if I decide I want to take the mosquito netting off and use it, I can just use it with the other netting to keep the dragonflies out. But normally I just use one or the other. So that's the combination of the two. And that circular, where are we? Where I join this circular? Yeah, can't find where the join is. Oh, I must have done it so well. Oh yeah, so the join in fact is here, where the two ends of the hose pipe are joined together. They match up very well, but you could use a zip tie the same as I showed before. So that's it. And as I say, that will fit on a 5-gallon bucket. That's that one. The other thing I've sometimes used for a bucket is this is electrical conduit. I've found it very, very cheap in a sale somewhere, about 19 mm, which is what, about 3/4 inch electrical conduit. It's colour white, so it's 20 mm in fact. 20 mm, about 3/4 inch. Just electrical conduit, very thin plastic pipe. For me, when I found it, it's very cheap. And then put the corners on, put it all together. I don't even glue it, it just pushes together. And again, I use it on a bucket with zip ties just to hold the mosquito netting up, which has got a bit damaged at one time or another. I don't think mosquitoes will get through there. Maybe they will, but maybe not very many. And also, I've got larger versions of this made out of this white electrical plastic conduit. Very, very cheap for me anyway, probably. You go around your hardware store, find out what's cheap and what you think is going to work, and you improvise. So I've got larger versions of this that go over rectangular tubs, maybe twice as big. Or if I want something smarter, and I haven't fixed this one up yet, these are just 1 inch by 1 inch pieces of timber, very rough. One screw in each end because it doesn't have to be very strong, the joint. Just quickly painted with black paint, and then deciding what I do, I'll either use cable ties just to fit mosquito netting on, or maybe I'll staple it. You can even use an ordinary paper stapler, although staplers go rusty. Although I've got a staple gun, so that works. Or yeah, I mean you can put the netting on as well, staple it down, which is faster than cable ties, but cable ties work okay. Even if you've got a few gaps, the dragonflies won't go in, I don't think. It appears they take one look at this sort of netting and quickly fly away, try and find somewhere else. But also, it will probably keep frogs out, it will whatever. If that might cause a problem in your ponds, or maybe you like frogs, I don't know. And it'll keep birds out, obviously. And that's about it. As I say, that looks smarter if I got the black plastic tubs. Then I'd use something like that instead of using something like that. With white, obviously doesn't look as good. And that's about it, I think. It's not, but as I say, if you can find out in your hardware stores or wherever what's cheap, or you can come up with other different ideas, yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, for example, instead of using this, you could use if you got some old electrical cable which is stiff enough, you can just make that into a roughly circular thing, big electrical cable, fairly thick electrical cable. I've got old electrical cable lying around, which maybe if I run out of hose pipe, I might use that. Okay, good. Okay, so somebody asked me about how I fabricated and what sort of material I use for these barriers for the floating plants in my pond. Basically, it is about 3/8 plastic pipe, which I've bent. This was very cheap in a hardware store I saw one time. I think it's used for as a conduit inside a plastered wall, where you can put small diameter electrical cables through. Whether it's available in other places, I've got no idea. I just saw it and I grabbed a whole lot of it, and I use it on sorts of different sort of things. But you've got to be able to bend it, and I'll sort of show maybe how it's done in a minute. There are different alternatives to this, obviously. The main thing is you've got to make it float. This won't float, so you've got to use a method of making it float. So you can maybe see here I don't know if it will show up. So the bent part of it is joined to a straight section along the back by zip ties. Does that show up? Maybe not. Not too far underneath. So it's got zip ties each end, just holding the bent part onto this straight section at the back, and then that straight section just more or less stays close to the wall of the pond. Okay, now this is the longest length I've got available now. Before, you know, when I was bending this pipe before, you can see that's the diameter, about 3/8. At the moment, that's about the best bend I can get in it. Okay, so you can see if you've got a larger diameter pipe, it won't bend, but this bends reasonably well. And what I do is, okay, drill a hole at each end. Then we've got a hole at each end. You can see it there. Oh, now there. So that's what happens when you bend it too much. Never mind. I wasn't going to use this for anything else anyway. But I could have bent it about that far, and then I put a wire or whatever to join it like that and keep this bend. You tie a piece of string on there, piece of rope on there, piece of rope on that end, and like a bow, you know, an archery bow and arrow. Keep it like that. Put it in the sun for a couple of days, and it will take up that shape. And if you want, you can tighten up that bit of rope a bit more to get to the sort of diameter you like. It will still be under tension. So then, let me see, we've got another piece. So then I would get a straight bit there, hold here, and zip tie there, zip tie at this end, and there you got the basic shape. So that's what I did. Not sure why I did it. I just had this plastic pipe available. It's the first thing came into my mind, and so that's what I did. Probably it would have been more sensible, although I haven't, to just use a piece of hose pipe. Okay, now it's got to be, this is a larger diameter. Okay, my earpiece fell out of the microphone. So this is a larger diameter, but it would look all right. But the colour, obviously you wouldn't want to use a bright yellow colour in your pond. But you can sort of have whatever. You could have a circle. You could have again a hole in each end, hole in there. Have something straight at the back if you want to join it. This bit here onto the wall of a pond, and then that's fine. So if you've got, this is the only hose pipe I had at the time, so I didn't want to use that colour. That's why I use this plastic pipe. If you've got some maybe 3/8 plastic hose pipe, or 1/2-inch plastic hose pipe, or grey colour, then that would be good. But the only thing is, these won't float. These won't float. These will sink. So what you have to do is to put inside something that's going to float, which goes back to this stuff. So this has got you've got this stuff inside, bits of it. Push it in, and that will float. This one has got some bits of polystyrene, just to show you. I don't like polystyrene because it all falls apart, but it works. So there's the bucket, and it floats, and that's about right. It floats about halfway, so the plants can't go underneath. The wind won't blow it around too much. But you've got to fill up whatever pipe it is with the foam, just to keep it above water. Of course, you could try and block up the ends, so you keep the air inside, and then it will float. But I found after a time, whatever you try with that, it's going to the water will get in, and then it will start to sink. So, as I did with my piece of pipe in my pond, a bit tedious maybe, but I'm happy doing this outdoors. Just cut strips of this stuff, doesn't matter, short bits, feed it in there, use something, don't use whatever, no, that won't work. Anyway, use something that just pushes it in, and then you just keep pushing it in. Keep pushing in bits. Then you have a longer bit of bamboo or whatever it is, piece of fairly thick electrical cable. Keep pushing in, pushing in, pushing in until it's filling up. If you get stuck halfway, then you can just fill up the other end. It's just a question of cutting strips, putting it in, and then it will float. And as I say, whatever shape you want, however large you want the area, whatever shape, you can have it circular, you can have it much bigger, or you can just join it at the back with a couple of zip ties. You know, just zip tie there, and you can have a zip tie. And just use that bit to demonstrate. Zip tie there, zip tie to hold it together. But again, it's improvising. Whatever you've got or whatever's cheap. If you want to pay a bit more for some nice black plastic tubing, say 3/8 tubing, as long as you can fill it up with this sort of foam, floating foam, some sort of, yeah, so that would hold that together like that, whatever you want. But this is the stuff that floats. If you're trying to cut something out of this, it's very, very light. So if there's a bit of wind or something, it will all blow away, all the plants will escape. You've got to have something which, you know, as in here, up to about, you know, halfway, half of the hose is below the water, half is above, and that will keep whatever plants you like contained. I say, I wouldn't want to use styrene, it's just too messy. This stuff, yoga mat, play mat, you know, whatever you can get, but part of packaging, and you even buy a pool noodle and cut it into bits. You can then just push it, keep pushing inside until the thing floats. That's it, I think. Okay.